It's time once again for another episode of Georgia Business Radio. Broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now here's your host, Rich Casanova.
All right, we are locked and loaded for another exciting episode of Georgia Business Radio, here from our brand new studios at Serendipity Labs in Buckhead with our $1 billion Buckhead view. You'll have to stop by and take a look. We're on a podcast, so I don't know if that math really adds up or not, right? Okay, so we're very excited to hear a new venture, kind of a reboot of a business in right up the road here on 400, if you will, on Sandy Springs area. I just moved from Sandy Springs to Buckhead recently, so very familiar with that part of the neighborhood. And we have Brandt Gully in the studio joining us. He's the owner of the Springs Cinema Taphouse. Yes or yes?
Absolutely.
So before we get into that, now you didn't bring any beverages here for us, yeah? Next time.
Next time.
Okay, yeah, or we'll stop by. So before we went on the air, we were talking about talk about the movie business, which you have some background in that, but primarily your background has been in the finance industry?
Yes. So I've spent my entire career, I kind of came about this a little from a different direction. So I started in public accounting. Worked with one of the big CPA firms and worked on, one of my clients was one of the big movie cinema chains. Then I got into banking and spent the next 10 years lending money to entertainment companies, including movie theater chains around the country.
Yeah, lending money to the entertainment industry, that can be kind of dicey or hit and miss or challenges with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it depends on which segment of the industry is really. If you're lending to film production, right, which we did some of that's definitely spotty and a little. You got to have a lot of risk tolerance for that.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And now we're in the second largest in the world, or in the U.S. for film and TV production.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. So now talk to us about the theater before you rebooted this and brought the Springs Cinema Taphouse into place. It was formerly known in Sandy Springs as the LeFont Theater, right?
Correct.
What was their claim to fame or their history?
Yeah, so the previous owner, George LeFont's a bit of an icon in the Georgia film industry, at least. He was sort of the art house king, one of the top art house and independent movie house operators in the country. So he spent a 40-year career, bringing those types of theaters to life and really being a venue that was known for showing not so mainstream movies, but quality films. And this was his last one that he had, and he, it's an 8-plex, and he was doing just that. He was showing mostly independent movies, right, and a bit of a landmark in the Sandy Springs community.
Yeah, like I said, I lived there for about 10 years. Familiar with the theater, been a handful of times myself. So now, how did this come about to say I'm going to get into the theater business and create this new concept?
Yeah, it wasn't exactly a dream of mine. I mean, it sounds like a crazy leap to be a conservative financial guy and then all of a sudden become a proprietor of a movie theater and bar and restaurant. So, but it's, like I said, I work with, for the last 10 years, have had a small investment banking firm working with other movie theater operators all around the country, raising money for them, buying and selling for them. And I get to see all the neat and innovative concepts that people are doing in this space now, and that's a must in this industry, as you have to find more creative ways to make the experience top notch for the customer, because there are more and more ways to watch movies, whether it's on your handheld devices or your home theater or wherever. It becomes more about the experience, and this particular theater is the one that would have gotten. It's the only one that I say really would have gotten me into becoming an operator. And I had told my wife a couple of years ago, and I know the theater real well from a customer and also from being friends with the former owner, that if this became available to me, then this would be something I'd be really interested in. And it just kind of all the pieces fell into place, and I just saw it as a fantastic opportunity to kind of reformat similar to things I've seen around the country.
Yeah, I mean, I get the home theater experience. I really don't understand why people would watch a movie on their cell phone, right? I mean, I've never gotten that idea. You know, maybe a YouTube video, but sit there and watch an entire movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's there are people,
Yeah.
particularly the younger generations, but it's there's just something special about watching it on a large screen.
Absolutely.
And it can make a not so good movie good and a good movie great.
Right.
And it's just an experience that people love to do.
And when this came across our table, the idea of this new venture in our neighborhood, I was really compelled to have this conversation because I remember when I went to the first theater of this type I experienced was at Florida State when I was there. They had a Mugs and movie theater. Never really been done before.
Right.
You pretty much just sat in the theater, watched the screen, and got your popcorn and left. And this was like, wow, this is like a better experience than at home. You have their food being served, it's entertaining, and you get to watch the movie. It's very experiential, right? It's come a long way since then, right? So talk to us about. We've got a lot of features to talk about. That's part of the unique piece to this. And why do you think people are drawn to the idea of, you know, beverages, food, and combining the movie experience?
Well, everybody likes to eat. Everybody
Right.
likes to drink, and
Right.
it's just really combining concepts. I mean, the one thing, time is at a premium, and
Yeah.
you have people that they have babysitters and they have a date night, or they can't squeeze it all in. So this just makes it easier and makes it more fun and unique. Certainly, from a business perspective,
Right.
you know, we love to sell food and beverage. It's
Right.
it's where the margin is in our business.
I thought of it from the entertainer's perspective, my experience, but I didn't think about it from an efficiency standpoint. You just mentioned, right? So it's a movie and dinner, you know, night, and combine the two, and you don't have to worry about valet parking and traveling and different
Sure.
and missing the movie start time, and yeah, just from that standpoint alone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we get comments all the time when there's a couple there watching a movie, and maybe it's a movie that the husband or wasn't as excited about,
Right.
and he said, "Well, you know, this cocktail or this glass of wine is really going to make this movie a little more tolerable for me." So
That's true.
But yeah, I mean, the movie industry has changed such that, or the cinema industry, it's always been a struggle to how do you combat the being so reliant on content. I mean, we can't control the quality of the movies that are out there. We
Right.
show the movies that are made. You know, we can pick and choose from those, but we want to make it more insulated from, you know, being at the mercy of Hollywood. So if it's a great experience, people are more willing to see whatever. I mean, we see that all the time.
Right.
It used to be that if you went to see a movie and it's sold out, you just leave. Now
Yeah.
we see it all the time where people come, the movie they wanted to see was sold out, and they're like, okay, now what do you want to see?
Yeah.
And so it's more about the overall experience than just the film itself.
Yeah, talk about the tap house piece of this, and is that where's the line drawn? Is there a challenge where people feel like they're being disrupted as a viewer, you know, with the service and the food and people drinking and eating, and you know, how do you control that chaos, or is that part of the expectation of the patron?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few different camps on this within the industry. We're sort of going right in the middle of being a traditional theater with traditional food and beverage offerings, and then there's kind of full dine-in theaters like there are a few of around town. We will not have wait staff coming in and disrupting the movie. I mean, you do have purist
Right.
customers that they can't stand that, and then some people, they tune it out.
Yeah.
And so we're, again, going to be in the middle. You're going to order your food and beverages in the lobby. We'll have our staff run it to
Right.
run the food or drinks to you. But we want to try to minimize the disruption to the movie experience as much as possible.
But if you're completely thrown off by that, then you're probably at the wrong theater. Just go sit in a theater that has no food and drinks, right?
Right.
You know. Okay, so you mentioned like the family experience. So you have special pricing just for kids as well, right?
We do, yeah. I mean, we in the Sandy Springs area, the demographics are changing a lot, as they are in a lot of parts of Atlanta, it's getting younger. There's more families moving in. You're seeing a lot more strollers being pushed around on sidewalks, and we want it to be, even though, we want to cater to people that are old enough to partake in any of the adult beverages, we also want to be super family friendly. So we're everything from the content to the pricing, and we certainly, the last thing I wanted was to come in and be the new owner that's just going to raise prices. And no, I mean, we being very strategic and being, even though we feel like our product is going to be stronger than anybody's around, we want the pricing to be as competitive and cheaper than anybody around. And so, yeah, we were, again, very strategic in the children's pricing to really, I love movies as a kid. It's a big part of a lot of memories I have from childhood, going with my dad to see my first movie with Star Wars. And, we don't want to price kids out. We want kids to love movies. And so we made our children's pricing really cheaper than anybody around town.
Yeah, for the holidays, I see you have the Dr. Seuss, the Grinch.
We've had that for the last several weeks, and it's been fantastic. And we have another big sort of rebooted Disney movie that's coming out is Mary Poppins Returns.
Oh, wow,
it's supposed to be huge. So, there's going to be something for everybody this holiday season.
Yeah, I saw the whole documentary, the backstory on that. That was fascinating. Dick Van Dyke is in this reboot, 100 years later or whatever it is, right? So let's walk, we're a business platform here on Georgia Business Radio. Again, Rich Casanova here, along with Brant Gully. He's the owner and creator, the man behind this new concept being brought to Atlanta in Sandy Springs called the Springs Cinema Taphouse. So talk to us about from the business model perspective. So what did you gut the theater? How much did you kind of keep as far as the floor plan and so forth? And what was involved in terms of the investment, or where did you put your dollars without getting into the exact numbers? But what did you see as a priority, or what did you have to kind of reboot within the framework of the theater?
Yeah, I mean, to really sum it up, we're pretty much gutting and redoing everything. So we, I knew, again, being a financial guy, I did way more than my homework on putting together a number of iterations of business models and projections and, determining what kind of capital I was going to have access to and what it was going to cost. I have the benefit of working for, having worked with and being friends with CEOs of other cinema chains all across the country. I'm relying heavily on them since I've never done this.
Right, yeah.
In large respects, I don't know what I'm doing. But I've had access to a lot of resources. So I knew from day one that it was going to be heavy renovations, and that was going to be really taking out and replacing everything. I started with the auditoriums. Auditoriums and restrooms, I feel like, are the two most important things in a cinema. The auditoriums, because that's the experience.
Right,
that's what people are paying for. And the
rest. You kept the 8-screen footprint.
Yeah, we're keeping the bones, and that's about it. But yeah, 8 screens is plenty these days, and with the way we can kind of shuffle movies around more so than the old days. But so we kept the same footprint, and the first phase was gutting each of the auditoriums and putting everything new in there. That's from floors to walls to new sound system, new, bigger, brighter screens, new lights, and then the kind of the biggest change was adding the chairs. It seems fairly insignificant, but it's not today. It's a big perk, and that was adding luxury recliners.
No, I saw them on the website. I saw the video, and it's you can't get. You have to kind of see the visual, but full recline, and the what we're talking about before we went on the air, you added the element of heated seats, because that's one of the things people bring. They don't know. Theaters are many times the air conditioning is so low, and it's nice to have that experience, especially during the summer. But people were bringing in sweaters and jackets, and I mean that's unique. Kind of have the heated seats, right?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a gamble in thinking of that. I mean, there's no other theater in the state of Georgia that has heated seats, and I have a friend that's CEO of a movie theater chain based out of Chicago, and he flew down and checked out my site just as a friend to make sure I wasn't crazy.
Right.
And, thought it was a great opportunity. And he told me one of the things I want to see you do is put in heated seats. And he had just done it in Chicago. And, I'm like, well, it's cold in Chicago. It's not in Atlanta. And he said, just trust me. And he said, just think about it. And so I did. And, I started noticing more and more people carrying sweaters and blankets into auditoriums.
Right.
And, to his point, an auditorium in Chicago is the same temperature inside as one in Atlanta.
Absolutely.
And, really the play there was, it was really as much for marketing as it was anything, is that people would talk about it. I mean, that's what I needed, some sort of a hook to my place. And, people can't go say, well, that's the place with the reclining seats, because a lot of competitors have that, but we are the only ones with heated seats, and we get that comment over and over and over again, in our reviews and word of mouth that's gotten around in the community. And our performance has been up, just in attendance has been up 50% just since putting in those chairs.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was phase one, and then of course gutting and redoing the restrooms and making those nice.
And a new air conditioning system.
Well, that was a necessity.
That's a major investment.
Yeah, that one, absolutely. When I bought the place, there, half of the auditoriums didn't have functioning air conditioning.
Oh, wow.
So that was not a fun expense, but that was part of the business model nonetheless. And then the next phase was, once we got through the summer, was to more of the fun part, and that's redoing the lobby and adding a full bar and a kitchen. So we should be completing that in the next 2 weeks and have that ready for Christmas. And it's there's more to it. There was changing the facade, taking out the box office ticket window, changing every finish inside the place, adding a lot more technology. And
talk about the technology. What do you mean by that? Like the checkout process.
Yeah,
and ordering.
So you want to make things as efficient as possible. Yeah. So we'll be adding 6 ticket kiosks. The trend has become is to add reserve seating, which we did.
Yeah, I saw that on the notes too. Yeah.
Yeah. So which just allows people to make their decisions ahead of time, buy their tickets online if they choose. They can come by the theater and reserve them as well. Right. But it just people love that.
Now, are they just holding a ticket, or are they holding?
They're
a
actually
specific
picking
seat?
their seats.
Their actual seat.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Because people are funny about that. Like I go with relatives, and some people like to sit near the front or on the aisle or right in the middle. Sure. I want to be 12 o'clock straight ahead, and I got family that wants to sit in the very back row. They don't want anybody around them. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly have some customers that don't like the process.
Yeah.
More so just because it's maybe
extra steps or.
Yeah, maybe they don't. An older generation that doesn't embrace technology as much and just prefers to walk in and
they can do that
put
as well.
eyes on it. They can do that.
Yeah.
You still have to pick a seat and sit in that seat.
Yeah.
But for the most part, people love it. It just allows people to reserve their seats ahead of time and not have to show up 30, 45 minutes early. So that all the the technology includes primarily ease of picking up tickets and buying tickets inside the theater. So we'll be finished with this in its entirety in the next couple of weeks. And you asked cost-wise. I mean, it's a $2.5 million renovation.
Wow, jeez. But what's unique about your background is not only being in the finance and the money business, but you've spent a lot of time not just in the film, but in the industry of movie theaters. So, I think it's going to be a home run hit. Okay, so in our next segment, we're going to pivot here in just a second and talk about. We've talked about the theater, the theater itself and the experience and so forth. Maybe we might touch on some of the films, what people expect. But also we want to talk about now the food and beverage piece, right? The bar, the back, back end and so forth. And again, you're listening to Georgia Business Radio with Rich Casanova here, your host, along with Brandt Gully. He's the owner of the Sandy Springs, the Springs Cinema and Taphouse. So let's talk about the Taphouse piece. So what type of food are we talking here? What type of beverages? Have you aligned with some partners that we might know you anticipate your kind of claim to fame, or what's going to make you unique, or why would people be drawn from the food and beverage perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start by saying I don't expect our kitchen to win any awards.
Right.
That's not really the goal here. It's as mentioned earlier, there's some efficiency to be had in eating while you're in a theater, and especially as movies have gotten significantly longer.
Right.
You get a 3-hour movie. It's through dinner time, you want something, and it's. It may not be for everybody, but, even before we added a kitchen, we sold a lot of hot dogs. They weren't great hot dogs, and we sold a lot of bagged nachos. So,
bagged nachos?
which you can get at pretty much any movie theater around the country. So, now we're going to have pizzas. We'll have sliders and burgers. We'll have chicken tenders, fries, paninis, quesadillas, pretzel bites, things like that. Stuff that's
I didn't hear popcorn, though.
Well, of course we'll have popcorn. Popcorn and candy.
You better, yeah.
Popcorn and candy and soft drinks are always going to be our staple items. But, there are folks that want to eat a meal.
Yeah.
And these are food items that are, there's a couple of things you have to look at. You can, in talking to a bunch of other theater operators, you can make the menu as extensive and as fancy as you want. It's still those same 5 or 6 items I just listed that it's about 90% of everybody's sales, but they need to be easy to make. They need to be quick to make, and they, just as importantly, they need to be easy to eat.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, you're sitting in the dark.
Right.
You're trying to watch, a screen in front of you instead of looking down at your food. So that's silly as that might sound. It needs, we've specifically chosen things that are kind of finger type foods.
Yeah, what doesn't cut the list? Or doesn't make the list, I should say, yeah.
Well, we've...
That other theaters maybe have tried and said that's
at this point,
barbecue ribs or whatever, right?
Yeah, well, a lot of folks do wings.
Yeah,
and
that seems so messy.
Yeah, I mean, I just spent $700 on each chair I put in there. The last thing I want is somebody, pawing their wings and then, getting barbecue sauce all over my seat controls. So, yeah, I mean, really where we drew the line was not having to use a fork and knife.
Okay, yeah.
At least to start. I mean, we're not at this point doing salads or fish or, things you have to cut.
Yeah, you don't want people cutting through their steak and then cutting through the furniture at the same time.
No,
forks going in there,
and,
or becoming weapons, yeah.
Yeah, and you want to be respectful of the people sitting around you.
Yeah.
You're not making a bunch of noise. I mean, as much as I love the actual dine-in cinema concept, you also... You just don't want it disrupting your movie. I mean, I remember going to a movie last year, and the person next to me ordered fish, and I'm sure it was fantastic, but I had to smell their plate of fish for a 2.5-hour movie, and every minute of that movie, I thought about, I don't like the smell of that fish. So that was distracting. So we've... again, we're trying to offer our food almost, as a service. The part we're most excited about, though, is the bar. That's
talk to us about that. Like, are we talking what range of beverages here?
Yeah, it's a full bar. I mean, we are. We've had beer and wine.
Right.
LeFont had beer and wine, but we were a concession stand that happened to have beer and wine. We are, for the most part, going to be a bar that happens to have concessions and food. So
we're talking bourbon and
we're talking all of it. So we'll have a wide range of with an emphasis on local and craft beers. We're going to be working with a lot of the local breweries to feature their drinks and do events with them. We'll have craft cocktails and all of the staple liquors. We will have a pretty wide ranging selection of wines. We'll have frozen, liquor beverages.
Okay.
We'll do, we'll try to run different drink specials that are movie themed, maybe.
Oh yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, again, we plan to do a lot more than just show movies. We want to do corporate events and host parties.
That was my next question.
Sure.
So I know this is a new venture and you're just getting underway. When did you actually open the doors? How long has this been?
So I bought it in November of 2017.
Okay.
So it's been just a little over a year now.
But that's when you opened the doors, actually?
Yeah, the doors have stayed open.
That's right. Yeah, during the renovation.
We've been doing the renovations along the way.
But now it's kind of in full force this holiday season, right? Most of all the parts and pieces will be completed and up to speed.
We will be. The goal is and I stay on my contractors every day. The goal is to be 100% done before Christmas.
Nice. And I had written down that note about corporate events. So are you anticipating people would rent out for special events? That's an option?
Yeah, I mean, we get a decent amount of business with that already without trying.
Okay.
And it's going to be a huge emphasis, and we've even designed the building and the product offerings to really lend itself to that. So, Sandy Springs, in itself is home to a lot of large corporations and, a lot of big business, and people are always looking for venues to host, quarterly sales meetings or annual sales events, annual holiday parties, or customer appreciation events.
Yeah.
We have several real estate and wealth management clients that will rent out an auditorium on a Saturday morning and invite a lot of their customers and their kids to come see a movie like The Grinch.
Oh, that's cool.
We do events with local schools and really want to put a huge emphasis on charities that are important to me, and be able to host events there. So, yeah, and we also another big piece of our model that has already started working out is Atlanta's is big business in film and television production.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're working, closely with some of the production companies to be a preferred venue where they can
screen their independent films.
Screen movies, host cast parties, a pilot of a television show, you name it.
Yeah, just from a listener perspective, or not being in the theater business, do you have certain restrictions on? Are you obligated by the movie companies to release a certain number of movies, or is that all on you to pick and choose whatever you want? Or is there? I don't want to get into too much minutia or secret sauce, but I've just had this curious thought: like, are you under contract to say these movies need to be produced? Filmed?
It's a great question. It's one of the top things people always want to know is how do you get your movies, and what do they require? The short answer is no. We're not required to show any certain amount.
Right.
That's the more complicated answer is we have to keep the studios happy. They are the producers of our content, so you have to balance that. I mean, you have to plan for it. You can't knock while a big movie from a big studio might not be doing particularly well at your theater. It's important to those guys who are important to me, and I can't just knock it off the screen just in favor of a 12-year-old's birthday party. I can plan for that and let them know. And so again, we can do what we want. We just have to manage that relationship just as you would in any other business. In terms of how do we get our movies, I have someone whose only job is procuring movies and forming relationships with the studios. He represents me as several other cinema chains, and every single movie is a negotiation. So that's why you have to keep these guys happy. I mean, sometimes you have to take a movie you don't want just in order to get the other one coming down the road that you do want. Yeah,
I mean, it's that business, not just the business relationship, but kind of the workings of it, in that they have to be on so many screens is what they kind of count on, or their revenue or whatever, right? Yeah. And then finally, I'd say what's next, but let's first talk about people would find more information just at springscinema.com.
Correct.
Right? And that looks like that's most of your social media handles as well for Instagram and Facebook. Just check out Springs, or in terms of social media, it's The Springs Cinema, but the website, just go to springscinema.com. And so for local folks that are familiar with Atlanta and Sandy Springs, give them some geography of where the theater is located if they haven't been in that area.
Yeah, so Sandy Springs these days seems to be stretching further and further.
I know,
but
right?
We are right at 285 and Roswell Road, so we are one block north of 285. So there's a Whole Foods, and we're it's sort of behind Whole Foods, but it's the Parkside Shops, again, 1 block away from 285. We're on the back side of the shopping center. If you follow your GPS and you pull into the shopping center and don't see a theater, trust me, it's there.
Yeah,
it's
just
on the
keep driving,
back side of the shopping center. So
Yeah, there's a bunch of stores out front, Chipotle and everybody else, whatever, right? And then the hours, it looks like 7 days a week. You're not there 7 days a week yourself, though, right?
These days I am, but
Wow.
we're working on
Relief team.
My wife has given me specific instructions to reduce the number of days I'm working. But yeah, we're open 365 days a year.
Wow,
So.
11 to 11 it looks like. That was my next question. So afternoon matinees. What about during the summer? Like I've always wondered, like on off nights, are there deals like on that you're thinking about in terms of marketing? A certain night will be a theme or a discount night, or for veterans or seniors or something.
That's something you're always kind of playing around with content. But during the summer, we have a summer kids series that will be featuring on a couple days a week to really again try to promote the fun of going to movies to children. We're going to be doing we have a series called Flashback Cinema that we show a lot of retro movies a couple days a week, a lot of my favorites and just our generation's favorite movies that we can introduce to other people, or movies that for example, like Patton. We did Patton on Veterans Day. People haven't had the opportunity to see Patton on a big screen, certainly not digitally remastered. So, we're going to be looking to do as much variation in content to be more than just a traditional movie theater.
Okay.
And then we have, for this month in particular, we're doing a lot of holiday movies, including. Part of our flashback series, we'll be doing favorites like we just did A Christmas Story. We'll be doing Elf.
Oh, really?
Next week. We'll be doing Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh, wow.
It's a Wonderful Life. So yeah, kind of something for everybody.
It's a Wonderful Life, because most every family watches that at home, but you wouldn't think that's available at the theater.
Yeah, we're actually doing it on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
So, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And my brother's favorite is the Elf, whatever. Yeah, he can't watch that enough, whatever. So, all right, Brant, anything else we should know before we sign out, or and how would folks find you at the website and all that good stuff? Or?
Yeah, absolutely, Rich. We just, once we're done with our renovations here in the next couple of weeks, we would love for everybody to come check out what we're doing. I know that we're certainly very excited about it.
Yeah.
And I know that it's going to be different than other offerings in the community, and I think it's our goal has been all along to be a little different. We even from the name, the Springs Cinema, we were been very careful. We want to be a community theater. We want to be the theater for the Sandy Springs and North Atlanta community.
All right, well said, and that just added to my short list for the holidays to stop by and check it out. That sounds phenomenal. All right, so we'll see you next time on the next episode of Georgia Business Radio. Rich Casanova, we'll see you next time.
Thank you again for joining Rich Casanova and our guests on the Pro Business Channel. Use the social media links here to share today's show, and stay tuned for the next episode of Georgia Business Radio.